when the dead rise and the land collapses into chaos. There's one escape that gleams in the sunlight like a billionaire's fever dream: the open sea. The yacht, that sleek floating palace of luxury, once a symbol of champagne-fueled vacations and tacky celebrity parties, now becomes a potential fortress of survival. You could say it's poetic justice. The same vessel used for vanity might now be humanity's last bastion. But before you throw on your captain's hat and shout, "We're going offshore," let's face the grim and hilarious truth of surviving a zombie apocalypse aboard a yacht. First, let's address the obvious appeal. Zombies can't swim, at least not well. They might wade, flail, or do a sort of tragic dog paddle, but they're not winning any Olympic medal for synchronized swimming. That gives you an instant advantage. The moment your engines roar and the coastline fades into mist, you've already achieved what 99% of survivors on land can't: distance. Distance from the infected, from chaos, and from that one guy in your survivor group who keeps saying we should go back to the city and get supplies. A yacht offers something most bunkers and shopping malls can't: mobility. You're not stuck. You can move with the tides, follow the seasons, and anchor wherever seems safe. Imagine gliding through turquoise waters, sipping desalinated rainwater, eating freshly caught fish, and laughing at the memory of crowded grocery stores filled with panic buyers. There's peace in isolation, beauty in the endless horizon, and for a while, it feels like you've outsmarted the apocalypse entirely. And there's always a but in survival, the ocean is as merciless as the undead. That floating paradise quickly reveals its dark side. For starters, yachts aren't designed for indefinite living, especially without a functioning supply chain. Every luxury on board, the glowing control panels, the soft leather seats, the espresso machine, depends on something finite: fuel, electricity, filters, and maintenance. Once those start to run dry, your sleek modern ark turns into a floating coffin with better views. Let's talk about fuel. Your yacht's engines might roar like a beast, but they're also thirsty beasts. Diesel or gasoline won't last forever, and refueling in a world where harbors are crawling with the undead isn't exactly easy. Imagine docking at a coastal marina where fuel pumps are surrounded by half-submerged corpses swaying gently in the tide. It's not exactly a welcome aboard moment. And while solar panels can help, most yachts weren't built with full off-grid sustainability in mind. Once the power dies, you're navigating by stars, which sounds romantic until you realize you have no idea which constellation is which. Then there's food and water. Sure, you can fish, assuming you're lucky, patient, and don't mind smelling like the ocean forever. Rainwater collection helps too, but you'll need to become a miniature water engineer, constantly checking filters, storage tanks, and weather patterns. A few calm weeks without rain, and suddenly that crystal-clear sea starts to look suspiciously drinkable. Spoiler, it's not. Saltwater is a slow, painful death disguised as hydration. Still, there's an undeniable appeal to this lifestyle. The yacht transforms you into a hybrid of survivor and sea nomad. You'll learn navigation, weather patterns, knots, desalination systems, and how to cook fish 17 different ways. You'll talk to seagulls for company and name your fishing rod Wilson. The silence of the ocean becomes your soundtrack, except for those eerie nights when you hear distant groaning echoing over the waves. Zombies might not swim, but they float. Yes, picture that nightmare for a second. A field of bloated corpses drifting slowly toward your anchored yacht, their arms half-eaten by fish, their jaws opening and closing in mindless hunger as the tide carries them closer. They bump softly against the hull at night, creating a sound like morbid knocking, a sea symphony of death. Suddenly, your luxury yacht feels a lot smaller, and sleep doesn't come so easy anymore. And let's not forget storms. On land, a thunderstorm is inconvenient. At sea, it's biblical. The waves rise like mountains. The lightning splits the sky, and your $1,000,000 survival fortress becomes a cork in a blender. You'll be praying not for rescue, but for buoyancy. If your navigation fails and you drift too close to shore, the The same rocky coastline that once looked beautiful in postcards now looks like a jagged death sentence. Still, if you're smart and lucky, the sea gives more than it takes. The trick is adapting. A good yacht survivor turns their vessel into a self-sustaining micronation. Solar panels for power, wind turbines on the mast, rain catchers on deck, hydroponic boxes in the galley growing lettuce and herbs. It's part Mad Max, part Aquaman, part Tom Hanks in Castaway. You'll craft harpoons from mop handles, build shade nets from torn sails, and rig an improvised spear gun to keep scavengers away. Not zombies, but desperate humans who see your yacht as a floating buffet. Because here's another harsh truth. Zombies are predictable. Humans aren't. Out there, floating on the waves, you're a bright, shiny target. Anyone scanning the horizon with binoculars will spot your yacht glistening like hope itself. And hope attracts the worst kind of people, pirates. Not the fun, yo-ho-ho kind, but desperate survivors armed with rifles, hooks, and hunger. In the apocalypse, the line between fellow survivor and ocean raider is as thin as your remaining fuel gauge. So you'll learn the art of stealth. You'll paint over the shiny chrome with dull gray to reduce reflection. You'll sail without lights at night, drifting in silence like a ghost ship. You'll keep the engine off near coastal areas and move only at dawn. You'll hoard ammunition, though every gunshot risks attracting others. You'll live between two worlds, too afraid to dock, too human to drift forever. Yet, even with all these dangers, the psychological warfare might be the worst of it. The loneliness, the endless blue horizon, the realization that you may never set foot on land again, that the earth itself has become hostile. Days blur together. You start talking to the ocean, to the sky, to your reflection in the stainless steel of the galley's sink. You count the sunsets and wonder how many more you'll get before something, hunger, infection, madness, or a rogue wave, ends your floating exile. Ironically, though, that isolation might also be your salvation. The sea becomes your monastery. You begin to accept silence as peace, not punishment. You find rhythm in maintenance, checking the hull, filtering water, rationing supplies. The apocalypse fades into background noise, just a bad dream somewhere inland. Out here, there's only wind and water and time. But survival isn't about comfort. It's about sustainability. The longer you last, the more you'll need to evolve your floating life into an ecosystem. Fishing becomes science. You'll start crafting traps for squid and lobsters, drying seaweed for vitamins, and fermenting seawater algae into something that vaguely resembles soy sauce. You'll repair sails with torn clothes, use mirrors for distress signals, and experiment with converting engine oil into crude fuel substitutes. The yacht becomes less a machine and more an extension of your will to live. And while others fight over canned beans in ruined cities, you'll be eating grilled snapper under starlight, guarded by the vastness of the sea. The undead can't reach you. Their moans fade into memory. You might just be the last person on Earth to see a sunrise untouched by chaos. That's when the thought creeps in, maybe this isn't just survival. Maybe it's freedom. Freedom on the ocean comes with a price, vigilance. Because even paradise rusts. Every bolt, every wire, every filter on that yacht was made for maintenance cycles, not eternity. Corrosion becomes your invisible enemy. Saltwater eats through everything, metal, rubber, wiring, even hope. Without a constant fight against entropy, your floating haven slowly decays into a leaking shell. So you adapt again. You start scavenging. Islands become your new supermarkets. You'll approach cautiously, binoculars scanning the beaches for movement. Palm trees sway gently, too gently, and you wonder if something's hiding beneath them. Landing on an island feels like walking into another world. The silence is suspicious, the beauty too perfect. You step onto white sand, rifle in hand, and realize how strange it feels to stand on solid ground again. These land excursions are your lifeline, a mix of treasure hunt and horror movie. You search for coconuts, tools, and maybe a rain barrel to take apart. Every sound in the jungle makes your heart race. A snapping branch could mean wind, or something undead that somehow washed ashore. Zombies on islands are slower, weaker, half-rotten from salt and sun, but still lethal if you're careless. You take what you need and leave before the tide betrays your position. Back on the yacht, you start thinking like an engineer. You modify your galley into a workshop, using dismantled furniture to reinforce doors. You rig a fishing net as a perimeter alarm, attach it to metal cans that clatter if something bumps the hull. You craft a harpoon gun from spare parts and mount it to the bow, not for zombies, but for anything or anyone that dares to approach uninvited. And because even the undead apocalypse can't erase the human need for routine, you create one. Morning, check weather and sails. Afternoon, fish, filter water, inspect fuel levels. Evening, read old magazines, talk to the ocean, maybe play cards against yourself. The ocean becomes your new civilization, simple, quiet, honest. Still, the mind plays tricks. You start seeing shapes in the waves. Sometimes, late at night, you swear you hear music from far away, faint echoes of civilization that might not exist anymore. Maybe it's a coastal radio signal bouncing off the water. Maybe it's in your head. Either way, it reminds you that the world still lingers, even if it's broken. Then one day, through the mist, you see it, another yacht, bigger than yours. The sails torn, the deck littered with debris. You approach carefully, engine idling low. No signs of life. You board, weapon drawn, expecting corpses. And you find them. Not zombies, just people who gave up. Empty water bottles. Fuel tanks dry. Notes written on napkins about loved ones they'd never reach. The sea gives you peace, but it takes community. It's the loneliest freedom imaginable, but also gives you perspective. The ocean doesn't care about wealth or status. Everyone becomes equal when they face hunger and horizon. You start seeing the apocalypse not as punishment, but as reset. Humanity's arrogance drowned long before the infection spread. On your yacht, stripped of comfort, you rediscover something ancient, gratitude. So, is a yacht good or bad in a zombie apocalypse? The truth is, it's both. It's a floating dream and a slow death, depending on how well you adapt. For the clever, it's the perfect base, isolation, safety, and endless mobility. For the careless, it's a glittering coffin drifting toward entropy. If you can balance the luxury with discipline, the solitude with sanity, and the endless blue with resourcefulness, then yes, the yacht might just be the ultimate survival move. Not because it's perfect, but because it forces you to evolve beyond the chaos of land. And maybe, years later, as the world quiets and the undead rot away on forgotten shores, you'll be there, sunburned, weathered, half-mad but alive, steering through calm waters. The apocalypse won't have defeated you. It will have refined you. The ocean, once your enemy, becomes your companion. The yacht, once a toy of excess, becomes your ark. And somewhere in the distance, under a blood-orange sunset, you'll smile at the irony that when the world ended, the only way to truly live was to keep drifting.